Hey, what's going on out there? I just want to welcome everybody to another episode of the Christopher Wright Show. I got a very, very special guest with me, a good friend and fellow patriot, my man Raheem, aka the Urban Conservative. Man, what's going on, brother? How you doing today, man?
Peace and love, and thanks for having me on. And shouts out to the whole family supporting the Christopher Wright Show, the whole movement, the Urban Conservative. Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Now, anytime, brother. You've been a long time friend and compatriot, a companion of the show, man. You've been on many a times, and I always try to bring you on as much as possible, man, because you represent that new wave conservatism that we are getting out there to the public, and you are a perfect example of that, man. And you've been working hard, grinding here in New York as well as me, getting things done to get action, speak louder than words, getting things done. We bring change to real New York, brother. I
Oh,
appreciate
yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And, I love chopping it up, coming on the show. Love having you on the Urban Conservative. And, yeah, I always look forward to the conversations, man, so we can kind of shed some light on some things. So, yeah, appreciate it.
Definitely, brother. Definitely, man. Now, let me just want to touch up with you. We were speaking about this a little bit earlier, man. I want to kind of bring it up now, man. What's going on here in New York? We have a lot of craziness going on in New York right now with the bail reform situation going on, with the quarantine, the masks, everything, vaccine shots, yada 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 yada. But man, how are we going to really bring change to New York, man? Because we mentioned Blexit. New York is in the building here, man. They're in New York now, making some real noise, trying to make a difference here in New York. So how do you feel what we can do to kind of bring Blexit into the New York system and bring change from New York via Blexit?
Well, first and foremost, I'm glad you did that. Shouts out to the whole Blexit team, Madeline, Sabrina, Eric, of course, Shakeem, everybody down with the New York team, the New York chapter. You can join the chapter, go to blexitfoundation.org, find your state. We talking to New Yorkers. We need y'all to join that New York chapter so you can become abreast of when we're doing events, where we will be doing workshops, presentations, educational things, and just stay plugged in and be a part of the I like to call it an initiative, right? The word movement sometimes gets overused. So we have an initiative, and that is to educate, right? And to kind of talk about the pillars that we stand on as Blexit members, and seeing people exit that left and leave that plantation thinking, that group think that's detrimental to the community, especially, I mean, it's detrimental to the whole community, but since the left likes to put people in groups, we're going to say the black community, right? So we see that it's the way that the left has been convincing black people to vote 85, 87% Democrat with some some wiggle room in there for the last election. We just had to do our part, and like I said, be out in the community, be a part of negating the violence and stopping this misinformation about what conservatism is, and let people know what real conservatism is, what it looks like. It looks like you, it looks like me. I mean, it looks like all of the God-fearing people who understand that we live in the greatest country ever conceived. Like it's kind of hard to debate, you know what I mean? So shouts out to the whole Blexit chapter, and of course the founders Brandon and Candace Owens. They're doing a wonderful job on the national level and all the other chapters. But we need y'all to check out New York. We need y'all to be a part of this New York thing.
Yeah, definitely. You guys really out there need to check out what's going on here in New York because we've been really grinding out here, man. A lot of people don't know what's going on out here. As you know, we do a video or something like that. We get it out there, and public gets a lot of attention because people think there's no conservatism going on in New York at
Right,
all.
right.
So when they see not only conservatism, but conservatism from all different groups and backgrounds of people, from LGBTQ, Black, Hispanic, Asian, everybody, man, we're all out here, man. It's New
Yeah,
York.
I ran into some shouts out to what's her name, Lauren L. She has a Republican atheist group, you know.
Wow.
So I mean, there's some amazing things. Yeah, a Republican atheist group, and it's a good group of folks. Believe it or not, I may not agree with them on the theological side of things, but they're with every other thing but that. You know what I mean? And so I mean, like it's amazing, and you speak to it. So it's like you said, there's so many different people in the conservative perspective that now is the time. You know what I mean? To put the petty differences aside on the right, and because the left is just running the country and the cities more specifically into the ground. Like New York is a mess right now, man. And you're out there in it. I'm out here in Long Island, and it's not much better, right? But it's a little different because it's not as many people as packed together. So everywhere you turn out there, you're running into somebody's opinion. You know what I mean? Like you can't even get a breathing space out there. So
No,
I
that's
mean,
very
but
true.
it's ridiculous, what the left is doing and what they're promoting.
And it's funny you mentioned that, man, because I even talk to people, I go to a lot of events and debates and stuff like that around here in New York City. And I'm noticing now more than ever, there's more leftists coming up to me and talking to me and seeing my side of the thing, my point of view, and see where we're coming from. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times when we go to these events, guys, you got to realize every time we go to an event conservative here in New York City, you're going to have guaranteed Black Lives Matter or Antifa is going to be there causing disruption, yada, yada, yada. But I noticed these last few times, usually when I go back and forth with them, for one, I don't yell and scream, just act foolish. When I'm getting my voice is raising, it's because I'm giving them facts and evidence backing up what I'm saying, just substance behind my words. So
Right.
they hear what I got to say, and afterwards they usually speak to me like one-on-one or 5-6 on one to speak to me. But we have conversations, and I know there's a lot of people to the left aren't agreeing with the de Blasio's of the world, with the Andrew Cuomo's of the world, with the sleepy Joe Bidens of the world. They are more upset now than they were even after the election was over. Right before the election was over, and they thought, they didn't know Trump was going to win or not. But they're really upset now that Biden's in office and all the promises he made to them about what he's going to do with the border, just letting his, the illegals come on over, and he's just going to, stop building the wall and not stop focusing on immigration and all that stuff like that. He's backpedaling on all that stuff. So what they're realizing now that he's just another greasy Washington politician who made all these promises while he was running, but now he's in office, he's backpedaling, especially on Black Lives Matter.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I just came off a radio interview earlier. Shouts out to the whole team at linewsradio.com. You can go back and I think they have an archive of the shows. I was just on a show with Captain C, right? And one of the things I think we do on the right, and we're equally as guilty of some of the people on the left, is we're not educating ourselves about what these political ideologies actually are. Liberalism, if you go look up liberal and just use the Wikipedia, you're going to find out that as what you're calling a conservative is your classical liberal. Liberal meaning liberty, right? So I think a lot of the times we're not defining our enemy clearly or our opposition clearly. We're saying things like liberals, and like you said, they want to come and talk because actual liberalism, and if I was on my computer, I would pull up a screen to share with you guys to show you. When you Google liberal as a political ideology, what you come to find out is a real liberal wants individual freedom. They want, they made some alterations towards now, but they want low taxes, right? This sounds like conservative talking points. We start talking about free trade, low taxes. Yeah, it sounds familiar. But what happens is the vocabulary gets hijacked by the neo-left or the new left or the new liberals, what are called neoliberals. These are your new liberals, what really should be called progressives, right? And
yes.
they more so what we're gonna find out is that a lot of our friends we're labeling as liberals are actually not liberal at all, and us saying we're not liberal is an actual mistake. It's one of those things where conservative alone doesn't work, right? That might be a lot of our primary point, but you're liberal about some things, right? Me personally, I don't care who somebody sleeps with. It's none of my business. It's whether I think it's an abomination against God and whatever else I think, unless you ask me for my opinion, I don't think it's cool to create a hate group against somebody because you don't like what they do. But equally, I don't think y'all should have a group promoting this behavior. It should be like one of those things that in society we shouldn't, it's unspoken. Like, why I don't ask anybody randomly, yo, how do you do it with your wife? Or how do you, who do you do it with? What hole are you sticking things in? You don't ask these questions. These questions. So, I mean, I think they've done a good job, Chris, of hijacking the terms. And I think we need to educate ourselves a lot more on the right side of things, as it relates to the language of these things, because it's absolutely mind-boggling when you read the definition of liberal and you're like, wait a minute, free trade, open markets, what? Like I thought that was conservatives.
I thought it was burning down buildings and rioting.
Right. Or the opposite, right? So I think we need to get a little more well-informed in order to affect the change, because you can't push back on something that's not a thing. Right? Like if you're pushing back on the wrong thing, the pushback's useless.
No, I agree with you on that. And I'm glad you brought that up because, progressives is the proper terminology for it. I just use radical left, it has a little more pop to it when you say, oh, radical leftist, But I say it because I know people who are moderate leftists. I know people who are true liberals. And these individuals aren't, out here rioting, looting, blocking streets, acting foolish, nothing like that. And it was the same way even when I was younger. When I was a Democrat, I considered myself a moderate Democrat when I was younger. And, I'll meet in the middle, talk with somebody, debate with somebody on the right. I didn't see it as an enemy or they're racist or Nazi, nothing crazy like that. So what got me into the side of the right was learning the proper definition of conservatism. Because, I always thought conservatism, I just, being a young Democrat, I thought, okay, that's something to do with the Republican Party. That is, over there
Right.
somewhere, I had nothing to do with me. And then when people would meet me and see how I carried myself, how I talked, and they were like, do you consider yourself conservative? And I'd be like, I got to ask a couple of times before I even got into the political side of things. I was like, why are you saying that? Because, like, the way you act, you're Christian family based, you believe in lower taxes, traditional family values, traditional Christian values. And I'm like, and they would tell me, do you know what that is? I'm like, no, they said that's conservatism. I was like, really? And when I was younger, it blew my mind when somebody would tell me that. But then when I got older, I always in the back of my mind. So when I actually did look at candidates on the right and started voting for Republican candidates, I looked into conservatism again deeply myself, and what they were telling me back then was correct.
Right.
And that's why I say now I'm a conservative. I don't come out and say I'm a Republican or I represent a party. I represent ideology. I think conservative ideology fits my ideology as a person, me personally as a human being, more than any other term. So that's why I chose to be conservative. But there are liberal values that I still to this day respect and I still honor. That's why I think I can meet in the middle with a true liberal.
Right. And I think when you separate it and say a true liberal, I think that needs to be highlighted, right? Because at the base of what you're saying, and I want everybody to catch this, is that you aren't one thing. We can't be extremist on either side here because it fails at a point, right? The moment you become you try to be the pillar of conservatism, and I ask you, do you have on two fabrics, right? If you come to me like you're this holier than thou conservative, very condescending, zealoty person, and you have on more than two fabrics, I can go grab a Bible and show you where you're wrong. So you need to, especially you come serve me certain food as a Christian, I might look at you like you're crazy. So I think on the right, we have to be mindful and be a little more understanding about how we got to the point where people believe some of the things on the far left. How do you get to the point where somebody subscribes to the idea that it's a bad idea to have a husband in the house? Like, how do you get to the point where you can convince large groups of people to devalue the act of sex? How do you get to that point where the sanctity of marriage is just disparaged? It's not a thing. How do you get to that point? And if we can understand that, then we'll see where the people on the left, because it's not necessarily their fault. Sometimes they're defending something and you can tell they don't know what they're talking about. You can
Or just spewing at you talking points, saying you tell her talking points. It's talking point after talking point. I'm like,
so
okay,
have you ran
do you
into
want
this
seeing
one?
into that?
Have you ran into that? I'm just gonna get loud, angry, and obnoxious.
I'm in the city, of course.
Okay, so if you can know that in our situation, you're gonna deal with. They're gonna try anger. They're gonna try this. They're gonna try personal attacks. They're gonna see what credentials you have. They're gonna shoot everything they got. And if you're able to withstand all of that, those are the people we end up coming from the left to the right, making that Blexit, if you will, pun intended, but making that Blexit, if you will, from the left to the right, or at least from the radical left to moderate, to the middle, where it's like, let's be logical.
And that is the key. You don't have to you walk away. You don't have to walk away and come exactly. You got to be a Republican. You got to be a conservative.
Right.
Walk away from the craziness, man. You can't even still be the left technically. Just be a moderate leftist and realize that radical AOC leftist junk, I don't want nothing to do with that.
Right. The leftist, Chris, the leftist that says, right, and this is one of the questions, and I'm pretty sure you've done this when we're talking to people, and it's like, okay, to take the position you have. So you're okay with the slaughter of millions of black babies, black and Latino babies? Like, who's okay with that? And when I propose this to the people on the left, or that are telling me I'm wrong for being a Republican or conservative, I'm saying, so wait. My position is that it's not okay to kill millions of black and Latino babies. To be on your side of the argument, I have to be okay with it.
See, if you're on their side, you're a woke black man. If you're on the other side, against that, then you're a coon.
Which is retarded. Like,
how crazy is that?
Okay, so
that's why people on the left, especially my black people that are on the left, and I had to go back and forth with them. I say, when I yell at them, there's sometimes I yelled at Black Lives Matter. There's about 15, 20 of them, NYU students, ages 18 to 25 years old. And I'm yelling at them. And when I yell, I'm like, oh, you're stupid. I say, I was a bigger Democrat than they were when I was younger. So I say, look, you guys are Black Lives Matter. Guess what? I'm not going to say all lives matter. I'm going to say all Black Lives Matter. And they look at me like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, okay, at the last 6 months, and this is last summer during my Turn New York Red event when they came out to go against me, I said, What about the black lives that have been lost in the past 5 months at your events? There's been over 30 black people killed at Black Lives Matter events in the past 5 months. Some people were police, some people were Black Lives Matter protesters, and some were anti-Black Lives Matter protesters, but they're all black people. And all of them died, and I didn't hear a peep from you guys or the mainstream media. So if you guys are really about black lives, what about the black people killed at your events? What about those black lives? And they have nothing to respond to me. They look at me like, there's no talking point for that. Don Lemon didn't train them that. So that's what you got to do. You got to beat them at their own game. And that's what I say. So there's no problem playing their game with them. Don't get lost with it with them, but you know what their little rules they go by. So play by the rules and beat them at their own rules and see what happens.
Right. Well, we know. So once you propose a fact, like I said, when you're talking to this leftist and you say, hey, all right, cool. The problem I'm having is being okay with the murder of millions in Black Latino babies. I'm gonna. So if you're telling me I should take your position, and I'm telling you this is on your position, this is on your side of the wheelhouse here. Your party platform is written down. My party platform, morals and principles, is written down. They're called party platforms. So now if I pull up my platform and I pull up your platform, let's not argue. Let's not talk about Trump. Let's not talk about anything else. Stop here. Let's pull up your platform. You're saying I should be on this side. Cool. Let's play neutral. Let's not pick a side. Let's look at people's platform. Okay, so you okay with aborting babies? No, you're not okay with aborting babies. Should the government be taking more of your money? Yet no, the government shouldn't be taking more of your money. Okay. Should taxes be higher or lower? They should be lower. Okay, cool. Well, your platform says the opposite. So now I let them go through the whole thing and I say, okay, forget that I'm a Republican, forget that I'm a conservative. Let's not be anything for a moment. And let's just observe the positions objectively. And then with that objective viewpoint, I find that it's easier to you end up not arguing, you know what I mean? And some of them resist it, but for the most part, those are the people that transition. And you know, that's who we're looking for, and that's what we want to work with. Those people that are willing to be honest enough. I think it's self-honesty that, hey, he just confronted me with a fact that I gotta be okay with no black fathers in the household to be on this platform.
And see,
I gotta be all right with that.
And your fact, and that's so factual, man. I tell people all the time, my father, for example, he's an Army Major veteran, the most conservative man you'll ever meet, just the way he carries himself. Doesn't cuss, had one drink, I think, in college his whole entire life, never did drugs, never, straight edge, Christian pastor, all that good stuff. But yeah, he votes Democrat. And when I would talk with him about politics, when Trump just got elected, of course, everybody, especially my family, were on the edge. Except for me, I was happy. I was partying on the edge, but they were on the edge. So they all confronted me one by one. And then when me and my dad had our moment, we talked on the phone. We just ended up in a nasty argument. And I just knew, like, at that point, okay, I call it the T word around New York. Bringing up Trump's name is just automatically going to bring up certain feelings. And then once those feelings are up and people are feeling rage, you can't have a conversation at that point. So what I started doing with my father is something similar to what you just mentioned. Is I'll talk to my dad. This is when he just passed late-term abortion here in New York. And remember, they had Albany, the Capitol in Albany. They were doing a stand ovation, and then they lit the Freedom Tower pink and the whole nine. So I told my dad about that, and I said, "Dad, what do you think about late-term abortion?" He was like, "Late-term abortion." He's like, "I'm like, in a woman's third trimester of her pregnancy, she can still abort a baby, and when the baby's born, even if the baby's still alive after it's born, they ask the mother if they want to kill the baby. The father has no say-so whatsoever, so the baby can still be killed even after birth. That's post-mortem abortion." And he's like, "Oh, I don't believe in that. I don't like that. And I'm like, "Dad, you know what you're voting for, right?" He's like, "I didn't vote for that." I'm like, "Dad, they just passed the bill in New York." They did a stand ovation in Albany. They lit the Freedom Tower, where the Twin Towers used to be, pink to celebrate the moment. And I'm like, and I tell people all the time, if Margaret Sanger was still alive today, she would be right there in that audience, giving a stand ovation, like, "Yes, I did it. I got it done. Mission accomplished." And because look what it's doing to the black community. We've been now, I think, allowing 11% of the population. They say 13%, but I'm hearing 11, 12% now. We are the population. We're not growing. And it's just because of these Democrat policies that are destroying our community. And it's brainwashing through the mainstream media for so many decades that now people who are like my father and my grandfather generation don't know any better but to vote Democrat. And they're smart, intelligent, strong black men, but it's that brainwash, man, of decades of it.
Yeah, but you know what, though? I see there's two sides to that coin. The side of the coin is that me and you are doing this podcast right now. And there's other conservative, alternative conservative media outlets. We had such a wonderful turnout in New York for President Trump. When you look at the voter map, right? You see a wonderful turnout. You see New York was red. And that's thanks to organizations like yours.
And California, man.
Right? So I kind of see it from a different perspective as to where, like, the changes are happening, but we have to remember that these things happen generationally. So some of the things that are being put into effect now, we won't see the results of for 8, 10, 12 years in some circumstances, but that's a double-edged sword, because what happens is that politicians aren't making decisions 8, 10, 12 years in advance. They're making policy decisions on the left for their political careers. So they're
Mm.
not advantageous to the conditions 2 generations from now. They're making decisions that keep them eating well. And this is on the left and the right. This is Republican and Democrat. There are Republicans that are
No, there's
responsible.
establishment. There's establishment
Right.
Republicans.
So
There's rhinos just as much as there's crazy leftists, man. Don't get it
right. I
twisted.
want to make that clear so nobody thinks that we're just following an agenda blindly here. Like,
Nope.
we're not foolish enough to be like, oh, there's no evil Republicans. There's
Mitch
no.
McConnell. Oh, yes, yes. Mitt Romney. It has all my best interest. Come on.
No, absolutely not. So, the more we start to recognize that, and I think focus on the building points, a 12 to 14% increase in Black voter turnout in certain demographics in certain areas shows me something. In North Carolina, we seen that. In New York, we seen some increase in Black voter turnout on the right. I'm talking about in the for Republican votes. So I know inroads are being made. We have to continue to have tough conversations. We have to continue to support your show, continue to support the Urban Conservative, the New York
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I agree with you to the fullest extent here. Sorry, got a little sound issue right there. Sorry about that. But yeah. I definitely agree. It's something that we need to really put our focus on, and is that new wave of conservatism. And don't worry about it. He's just having a little technical difficulties, but I know exactly where my man Urban Conservative was heading to. What he was saying. It's like we are in a crossroads right now when it comes to politics. And there's a lot of people who are waking up, and that's why I keep telling you guys, and I say over and over and over again, that Generation Z is the most important generation for us right now. You got to look at Gen Z, because they are the youth, and that's the ages 20 and younger. So if you look at the age 20 and younger and take a look what they're up to, that's very important. And what's up, Urban? So what I was saying is, you got to look at the age 20 and younger, Gen Z, and that's a generation I call the internet generation. Like, our generation, we're like the millennials. We were born and raised on a television set. My father's generation, the TV generation. My grandfather is the first generation where you say it's kind of like half radio, half TV. And you see how the generations act and where they get their main source of media from. And I tell people all the time, like, I'm the generation, I'm that older America before there's internet, and I remember America after the internet. And I could see, and I've seen the change in what has occurred. And the generation below me, Gen Z, they were born and raised on the internet. That's all they know. So when I meet a lot of young people, they come up to me and they look at me like I'm like some big time news but it's not that. It's just that I can tell they get their main information just from the internet. They don't go
right.
for
The internet views are the value to them. That's the social value to them.
Exactly. And that's why they're trying to censor us so much, the establishment in Silicon Valley, because they know that conservatives run the internet right now when it comes to news. So if they can shut us down early, shut us down early while they're brainwashing the youth in school, in kindergartens and all that, get them at a young age in the education system and censorship the internet, then that's how they get Gen Z to get brainwashed, like our generation, our parents' generation, and yada, yada, yada. But see, we're not allowing that to happen. That's why we're out doing what we're doing. We're getting new platforms when they're trying. That's why I'm saying, you guys see me on YouTube, on Facebook. I've been censored. You guys follow me on Facebook. 30 days censored again. YouTube won't monetize me. Yada yada yada. But look, you guys still shot the Foxhole app on my friends and pages on Foxhole. I got on there. I've got these underground platforms that are coming that conservative. The Underground Railroad, the digital Underground Railroad, in a way, is what we're kind of dealing with right now. So we're getting the message out, but we just got to put more extra effort into doing it, which won't be a problem. But I tell you all the time, if we can get Gen Z to get that picture, then the future's going to be looking bright for America. That's because that is. To me, that's the real deal generation. They're a generation that can really take things back how they were to me in the 90s. Because I thought in the 90s we were doing pretty good as a country when it came to race relations, when it came to comedy, movies, music, on and on and on and on. We were just like past the BS. And now we're going back in time. We're going back to the racial division back from the 50s and 40s. But instead of white people attacking blacks, it's blacks attacking whites. And now Asians, it seems like it's out of nowhere.
Right. It's the strangest thing to me. Usually the data doesn't support a lot of the left's narratives. Like, when you actually look at facts and data, it doesn't support the narratives that they come with. So Wu-Tang Clan is one of my favorite groups, right?
Oh,
Like one of
forever.
my favorite groups, right? So
All day.
Cat Williams has a skit about saying something about like, don't come to him if y'all gonna try to beef with the Chinese and the Asians. As long as they make the best orange chicken and something about the joke, right? For $14. So I've never known an anti-Asian sentiment anywhere in my culture. Anywhere in hip hop culture, I've never heard of an anti-Asian sentiment. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Bruce Lee was the biggest thing in the black community. So like, Ong Bak and all of the martial arts and all of the you want to talk about cultural appropriation, right? This is
Right.
how crazy it is. Think about it. So like,
Brother, see, this is the thing, and that's why I tell my black folks all the time. They always try to pull that racial appropriation card. I'm like, you guys do know how we be eating Chinese food every other day. We grew up in the kung fu place. A lot of us,
yeah, wearing
come on,
Gucci.
man. Like, yeah, Gucci, yeah, man. So it's like if we and not talking, and it's not talking about the weaves that are like blonde weaves or whatever it may be with women, but there's we all do it, man. We're Americans, man. We love we're a culture of people who are diverse, who we got open minds where we're trying new things, new ways of looking, and all kinds of stuff. So for us out of nowhere to be trying to pull the race card on stuff and oh well, white people can't be doing this and black people. I'm like, what are we talking about? What are we doing this for? Like I thought, like I said, when I was growing up in America in the '90s. Race was like the last thing on my mind, man. Like I looked at my peers like they were equals. My dad was the highest ranked officer in the military base. I didn't look like he was oppressed. I didn't feel oppressed. I was athletic growing up. I would beat my friends and peers in field day and a lot of events. And so I never grew up like, oh, I can never be good or never be great at this because of my color of my skin like that message was the very last message my parents would ever say to me growing up, especially in the time we were growing up in America that we were growing up in. So that's what angers me right now when I see these NYU students, 23, 22 years old, talk about they can't do this, that, and the third because they're oppressed. And I'm like, my grandfather dealt with oppression living in the Deep South back in the 30s and 40s, and he never played victim. So you were 22 years old living in New York your whole life, talking about you're oppressed. I'm sorry, I don't want to hear that victim BS. Save that for the fake news. I don't want to hear it.
Right. All right. So when we say how many people were killed in Chicago by Asians, how many black people specifically were killed in Chicago by Asians? How many Asians were killed in Chicago by black people?
Whoa.
How many white people were killed in Chicago by black people? How many black people were killed in Chicago by black people? The highest dynamic there, the highest number we're going to get is black against black. We can't say that because it's racist, right? So what I think is we have to stop like worrying about what people say because the facts are the facts. Listen.
Yeah.
Black people are committing, some black people are committing a lot of crime. Some. The amount of the population that are engaged in this type of behavior, we're focusing on something that doesn't make any sense to focus on. I asked my son who lives in California. I said, out of 100%, what percentage of the black community would you say live in poverty, right? And he was like, what do you mean? And I said, if we have 100% of the black people, it's 43 million black people, something like that. What percentage of them live in poverty? He goes, at least 65%.
Wow.
And I said, wow, let's pull up the statistic. When he seen it was at 27%, I said, so what percentage of us don't live in poverty? So poverty is clearly not the majority of our problems as melanated, whatever you want to call this, right? Which we didn't have any input on. No one chose their skin color. So arbitrary, right? So the fact that these kids are being raised to think that black people are in poverty. No one's ever stopped to show him the statistics that, hey, we're not living in poverty for the most part. The large majority of us are not poor. Like we're not. We have a lot of people in the middle class. We have a lot of people in the upper middle class. So the couple of million of us that are in jail, or the 1.2 million, right? We have to ask ourselves, what percentage is that of the 44 million? that are messing up, that are getting it wrong. And then, okay, if there's 1 million people in jail, 1.2 million, whatever, locked up, right? What percentage of those people were caught red-handed? What percentage of them are in there? You know what I mean? And then when you find out, yeah, it was an armed robbery, he's on camera. Yeah, he shot up a neighborhood. Yeah, he got caught with the crack. Yeah, he got caught with the coke. Yeah, you know, sure it is. I'm not saying there's no one that's in there that doesn't belong there, but pretty much everybody in there's done something to earn their position, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or at a minimum, put themselves in a situation where they would even be associated with the behavior to end up in that situation, right? The
Yes.
self-accountability we talk about on the right. So I think it's a terrible narrative that Black people are doing bad and we have to fix Black America and Black America is broken and it's nonsense.
No, you know what it is, in my opinion? It's the media. It's what the media puts out there. The media puts out that they betray us. It's what they portray, and it's two things. It's what the media puts out there that like this is the Black community. This is what this is what they are. So the media is one part, and also it's on our part as well. We're not innocent in this either. Our issue in the Black community is we celebrate the culture. So, you know, and I was younger. Look, we talked about Wu-Tang earlier. I'm a Wu-Tang head. I love Nas growing up. You know, I can go on and on. Ghostface, you know, Scarface. I can go on and on with the rappers. But even back then in the 90s, at least when they were rapping, they were talking about where they're coming from, but they didn't rap in a way that made you want to be a part of that. It raps in a way like, yo, I don't want to deal with, that sounds like nuts what they're crazy dealing with. So they were doing it because they were, and they were lyrical and they're telling your story, and they make it seem like, okay, that's just something they're telling me to stay away from. Now you hear some rap trap music, they're like, Shorty does this, da da da. She got that, she got this. I got the guns, I got boom boom boom, got the beat in the background booming, and it's like something in a way. It's not making it look bad or degrading or something evil that you want to stay away from. They make it seem like, oh, you won't be a part of this. You ain't Black unless you're a part of this.
Well, that's a big deal, and that's a part of American culture, the idolizing of. So it's interesting because one of the things that go into framing a society's thought process, framing is the group think process. Part of that is creating heroes, right? There's a good book, and I can't for the life of me can't remember the name of the book right now, but it talks about what's necessary, what are the necessary ingredients in creating idols, right? And that idol creation process, the myth around this is what brings societies together. It gives some central focus to society. So we look at the Dillingers, we look at the Cowboys, we look at the Al Capones, we look at these people. They're given to us as distractions. They're given to us as entertainment, and they're given to us to idolize when we shouldn't have idols. We were taught to not have idols. The Bible says no graven images.
Yeah.
So then we come out with shows like American Idol. We come out with so now what we've done is we've gotten away from a kind of simple viewpoint of reality, right? But the reality that we have now has been so influenced by entertainment, and it makes sense when we define what government is. It makes sense when we define what entertainment. Why does government end in ment and entertainment end in ment? Why?
Oh man, I know.
Why?
That entertainment. Yeah.
And then government, right? So what happens is ment is the Greek or Latin word that means mind. This is why you find it in words like mental.
I'm pointing at my brain while you're saying this.
Mentality, right? Mentality
Right.
means your mind state, your mentality. Enter, go in, tain, take hold, tain, retain, detain, attain, enter, go in, tain, grab hold of, ment, mind.
Oh.
So in the church and in the mosque and in our religious teachings, they changed the word possession. In the Bible, when they said something got into my daughter and her mind is not the same, went. So they changed it from possession to entertainment. So the entertainment industry is nothing more than the mass production of possession, of demonic possession.
And see, I hope you guys are hearing this. Is some serious. We're going to dip in a rabbit hole in this one a little bit here, because this is real talk here. Because look at the Hollywood. Hollywood. The Hollywood comes from the term the Hollywood.
All of that. You get all of that stuff.
You already know because I was witches' wands back in the day. So this is all or nothing new under the sun, as the Bible would say. You know what I mean?
Right.
And this is what we're dealing with, folks. And this is why I think it's always so important. Like I said, entertainment to me, I tell people all the time, entertainment is the mainstream media, for example. It's more than just news. People hear mainstream media, they think ABC, they think Fox, and that's it. Their mind cuts off on that. No, the mainstream media is everything on that television set. When you turn it on, every channel you watch, that's part of mainstream media. And that can be used as a weapon. And I tell people all the time, the news could be one or two things when it comes to the news specifically. It could be one of the greatest weapons for a country, or for them for their advantage, or it could be one of the greatest weapons to destroy their country. And the way that happens is the news is done properly, which is just report information. So something happening, you get a camera out there, you record it, you just tell people, hey, this is what you're seeing. That is the news. That's what news is supposed to do. But as we all know, even on both sides, Fox and MSNBC, CNN of the world, that's not done. It's biased. They're pushing a narrative. They're trying to push an agenda, whatever it may be. So when you're doing that entity that was so powerful that could help a country and build a country is now the biggest weapon to destroy that country. And that's why I say I hate the news. People don't understand. People that know me know I don't use the word hate. I don't just go around throwing that word out there like it's fun. So when I say I hate something, people are always like, whoa, what do you mean you hate this? I do hate the media. I really do. Not because of what they're truly meant to do. It's not that. If they really did what they're supposed to do, I wouldn't have a problem with them. But the fact that they are just lying and manipulating and brainwashing the whole nation, it's just what I hate about them, because I got family members, close friends and loved ones that I'm seeing fall into this victim.
Right. Well, the other side of the coin is the relationship between the entertainment business and the government business. So it's simple to prove me wrong. If I'm saying something wrong, all you have to do is tell me that enter doesn't mean to go in, right? Which we all know it does. Then you have to tell me tain doesn't appear in words like attain or retain or detain, which means to grab a hold of or to take hold of, and ment meaning mind. So what is government? What is the word govern? To control.
Mind.
To control the mind. So you would need entertainment to have a government. You need they are, they're the same, they're sisters, they're brother and sister, they're related. They have a close relationship. So it's no wonder we see them, we call it the mainstream. Why would we call it a stream though? Why is song streaming? Why is that called streaming?
Live streaming like we're doing right now.
Yeah, why stream? Why is stream?
Yeah, right.
And the more we ask these, and what seems like silly questions, right? It seems like a silly question, but when we tell people that your language shapes your reality, it said in the beginning was the word. In the beginning was the word, and the word was God, and the word was with. So not only in the beginning was there a word, that tells me how powerful and impactful words are, that in the beginning was the word, and the word was God. That's and the word was with God. So there's words and there's God. Cool, got it. Let me master the words, and then I can really understand God. That's how we look at it. So when we breaking these words down, it's essential, because this is how your thought process is shaped. Everybody listening to this, try to have a thought without a word, then tell the person next to you what you thought about. It's impossible. You can't think of anything without a word. This is why it says, in the beginning was the word. You needed a word to create anything.
And see, and so funny she said, because you see how people use words. I hate to bring the left again, but they do it. That's something that I will say they do very well, is they find a word and they'll put a word to it. Identity politics, xenophobic, anti-fascist, or Antifa for anti-fascist, Black Lives Matter. They use these words and they use them in a way where it kind of gets stuck in your head and ingrained in your mind like a tattoo. You hear so much that you hear saying Black Lives Matter all the freaking time. You don't even know you are.
Right.
And also what it does, it puts you in a box. It puts the person they're debating in a box. So I say, oh, I'm about Black Lives Matter. So that automatically leaves you on, what are you going to say at that point? I'm not about Black Lives Matter. You don't care about Black Lives. So the only thing you have at the option almost to say to me in return to build on this conversation is to say, oh yeah, Black Lives Matter. Yeah.
But Chris, I throw them for the whole loop. When they say, so you're saying Black lives don't matter? Yeah, it's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying Black lives don't matter because you can't have a Black life. It makes zero sense linguistically to say it. It's literally retarded. Black is an adjective. So the minute you become the adjective, you're no longer human. We need it to be a noun. I need a noun. Raheem, proper noun. Christopher, proper noun. Human, proper noun. A noun. Black, nah, that's an adjective. You just removed my humanity. white folks that consider yourself white, stop agreeing to be white. Stop. You're Italian, you're German, your family's from Eastern Germany, your family's from Scotland, but you're not white.
Yeah. And it's funny. That's why I tell people, because I have white friends I had this conversation with, and they asked me about, I mean, I remember I was real young. I was talking to my friend's parents, my friend Dave's parents. We were talking about politics, and I was always into politics when I was a kid. And they always thought that was interesting about me. And we had one morning before school, I would sit down at the table with them to drink coffee. I eat my cereal with them, and we'll just have conversations. We were talking politics, and it got real deep one day. And at the end, I could tell they were like really like taken back by what I was saying to them. They were like, "Chris, can we ask you something?" And they were like, "You can tell us about that." Kind of like that, like, but as a kid, a real question kind of moment. And they were like, "What do you consider yourself? Do you like to be called, Black, African American?" She's going, and I was like, "You can just call me Chris." And they was like, "Oh," they're like, "Okay." They're like,
Chris, that's it. That's all.
Great point. That's a good point. And they were really, and I remember that to this day. And I kind of like, when I got older, at that time, that was just me speaking from the heart, to be honest with you. But when I got older, I said, wow, that was kind of ahead of my time a little bit.
Yeah, that's profound.
Getting older, and I started looking at the skin color thing. I'm like, I don't consider myself Black. I don't consider myself African American. If I want to consider myself a actual citizen of the country, I consider myself American, period. That's it. But I'm just my name, Chris. That's who I am. Like, I don't go to my white friends and say, want them walk around like, yeah, white lives matter. Yeah, I'm proud to be white. Yeah, I'm out here being white. I don't want to, like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, now when I see my friends who are, like I said, who are white friends who are like, they're proud of their German heritage. They got family from Scotland, and they're like, or they got from Ireland, and and they got that history, and they're proud of that history. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's something that Black people, we got to get back onto, is just respecting and loving our history, and that leaving it at that. Like, this whole labeling me as a skin color thing, that's just, to me, it's just foolishness, man. And that's never going to help move things forward if we're stuck to these labels like that.
No, you're absolutely correct. And like I said, at the point where, like, okay, if you agree to be something, you have to take everything that comes with the thing you're claiming to be. So we might say Black in conversation, because I'm not going to correct every time somebody says Black. I'm just not that type of person, right?
Sometimes, especially when you're in a conversation, you get in a good conversation.
It's not the place for that. Yeah. I don't want to ruin every conversation, so I'll say the Black guy. I'm guilty of it, but we shouldn't do it. We should try to, at all points, say, listen, no, I'm not white. First of all, I'm American. But your skin color has nothing to do with the country of origin you're from. There are people from places that have different skin tones from all over the planet. It's more regional and equatorial than anything. The people closest to the equator, darker. I don't care if you're in what country. People further away from the equator, lighter. This has nothing to do with anything. And none of them are white, and none of them are Black. You've never seen a Black person in your life. You've never seen a white person. Albinos are not white.
No, that's the thing. Everybody wants to ask about color. Just go back to elementary school. Let's get a crown set, the big old box of crowns, and go through pick out a white crown, pick out a black crown, and tell me what person looks like the black crown you can find, and what person looks like the white crown that you can find. It's not there. So we know technically what Black looks like, what white looks like, because we learned in kindergarten what colors or what. How are we labeling ourselves as human beings to these colors?
But that's the crack in the spiritual armor. That's how this racism concept prevails, is because we're all lazy. I think we lose a lot of information from people when we just call them white. Because now if you say, oh, I'm a third Scottish, a third Irish, and Western Germanic, now I can ask you about two or three different cultures. I can learn about what foods did the Western Germans eat versus the Northern Germans now I can gain more from you as a person, breaking down how you really are, what you really are, versus saying, well, I'm a third generation. I'm a Black guy. Black meaning what? Then you say you're Black, come to find out you from Barbados, or you from, or you say African American, come to find out you a Native American, Cherokee this, and you're not from Africa.
Yeah, see, no, you're so right, man. Because if you don't understand, like we only like use the term Black because, like I said, I know within the Black community, like I just say for this sake of conversation, in the Black community here in America, there's Blacks from West Indies, there's Blacks from Africa, there's Blacks that are born and raised in America, and we all have different way of thinking about different subjects, about different topics. We grew up differently. There's nothing the same. Like that's why we see Hispanics, right? And you don't look at Hispanics and say, oh, you're all Mexicans. No, there's Hispanics from Puerto Rico, there's Hispanics from Spain, from Cuba, live in America their whole lives, from Guatemala, wherever it may be, but they are all Hispanic, but they aren't, you can't say they're all brown, like you're all brown people. Like, no, they are obviously different races, different kind of communities within the Latino community, and the same thing with Black community. So why are we a race that limits ourselves to just you're Black, you got to be Black? And that's what frustrated me growing up in this country so much, is when how I carry myself, how I walk. You know, I said I was raised. My dad was military bred. I lived in all different countries and states growing up, so I didn't get locked in one city or one area. And this is how I was born and raised. This is how I learned the slang terms from that area, and that's it. I speak very properly because I just learned proper English. I moved around so much.
Right.
But when I growing up, I had to deal with my own community and say, when I speak, oh man, you don't sound Black, man. I ain't Black, man. You got to talk like this. You know, what are we talking about? Until I block somebody, shot in the court, or beat somebody up in a fight, then Chris is Black. And I'm like, when I was a kid, it was frustrating me. I'm like, man, why'd y'all just accept me from the jump? Why did it took me to get all angry and get in a fight with somebody, or go out in the court and cross somebody up or block the shot? And now you guys are like, I'm one of the brothers now. And I'm like, and as a kid, I just dealt with it, and I knew how it was in my community. But now as an adult, and now I deal with my own community, I stand up and stand on my own too, and I get a lot of respect from my own community now, because they're like, wow, they can tell I'm just my own man. I'm not a part of a community or a part of a political party or group. I am Christopher Wright. You know what I mean? That's it. That's how I look at it, man. It's like you can talk like you from the city, you can talk like you from the country. It doesn't make any difference between being more Black or less Black. It's like, what do you, when you walk outside, what do you people see when you're walking outside? And it's not technically, like we talked about earlier, Black. We're brown colored, but, and you know what I'm saying? We're not, we are a community of people, and we, within our community, we can be so divisive.
So here's the thing. I tell people, listen, sure, we're going to fall and believe some stereotypes, because some stereotypes are grounded in truth, right?
Oh, yeah.
Some of them are
that's why good comedies. That's
right?
why you had the good comedies back in the day, the Chappelles of the world and scary movies and all that.
It's hilarious. If you can't, like, laughter is such a big part of easing tensions, and I'm a big comedy fan, right? I appreciate the art of comedy. So much is said in comedy that is profound. People George Carlin's one of my favorite comedians, right? If you guys, rest in peace, George Carlin. If you get a moment and go back and listen to some of the things Carlin was saying, right? And it's said to make you laugh, but if you listen to it with an open mind and you listen objectively and listen for what he's writing, forget the laugh for a second, forget the joke, just listen to it like he's not trying to make you laugh, but he's just talking to you. And he says some very, very profound things. And I think if we stop putting people in high regards because they have doctor at the end of their name, or I'm at this university, so you have to listen
my
to
master's from
right. But this is where we get critical race theory from a bunch of Ivy League trained lawyers. So this is where critical race theory
has
trouble,
man. That's asking for trouble right there.
Right. No, and I challenge everybody to go look up the origins of critical race theory. You'll see that it is classified as a social construct. So another idea, for those who don't know what a social construct is, a social construct is something like money or currency. It's socially a contract between us. We've all agreed that we're going to use dollars. This is what we all like. You don't think to go get rupees to shop in America. The person that comes with the rupee is you're going to get looked at crazy. If you got a business and you give somebody and you serve them food, or you work a job, and at the end of the week, your check, your boss comes to you and pays you in like lira or some other currency, or the peso, he hands you the pesos, you're going to be like, well, this ain't it. Why, though? The question becomes why? Because we have a social agreement that the dollars is the value. So things like money and currencies are examples of social constructs. So now we can ask this question. Well, what else is socially constructed? And that question is what you need to deconstruct critical race theory properly. We've already said that race doesn't have an inherent biological meaning. So that's one whack at the legs of critical race theory, and it didn't stand up. Just that simple, just that whack alone at the pillar of critical race theory knocks it over. That race doesn't have an inherent biological meaning. So you can't follow up with the white race after saying that race doesn't have an inherent biological meaning, which is why critical race theory proponents don't want to use biology in the theory. They don't mess with biology. They don't touch biology in the theory.
That's trust the science. Trust the science.
Let's stay away from the biology, because then we're going to have to explain, well, race doesn't have an inherent biological meaning. It has a societal meaning, which is assigned, and then you have to subscribe to it. So you run into a problem if you use biological science to make sense of critical race theory, because the race in critical race theory is a social concept. It's not an actual thing.
Wow. See, this is. I hope you guys listen to this because we're going places with this one. This is real talk, man. And I know we've been going on with some real talk, like a lot of stuff, man. But there's one thing I did want to touch up on, that people are listening because we're both living in New York, man.
Yeah.
And what's your stance on with this whole situation with Dr. Fauci, man? What's going on with that, man? With this whole vaccines and what's I mean, it's been crazy, as you know, man. They got some stuff going on in New York, and he just recently came here with Joe Biden to walk around and promoting the vaccine shots. And people I know were out there protesting against them that day, by the way,
Right.
like some real patriots. So, what's your stance on the whole matter?
Well, I think from the beginning, if you go back and look at our videos, I initially said, wait for it. Just wait for it. Don't get on the Fauci ship yet. Don't jump off. Just wait for it. These things take time to play out. Wait for it. I'm not gonna say nothing good. I'm not gonna say nothing bad. We have to get to a certain point to where we can really critically look at it. We need the situation to have something have happened to look at. So, in other words, I couldn't judge Fauci based on month 1 of coronavirus. You can't even base it off month 3. Now we're a year later. Now we see what's happening. So now I feel confident where I was like, I told y'all, don't jump on board with this guy. Don't jump off board either. Just wait. We have to see how it plays out. So I think what happens is bureaucracy at its best again. Taxpayer money going to fund programs that are not beneficial, right? Another and a long list of things that our hard-earned tax dollars are being spent on by these bureaucrats is absolutely ridiculous. It makes zero sense that we would be spending money to create viruses, allegedly, that are this contaminatable, that are this viral. It makes zero sense to me how these people could claim to be Christians or Catholics or any of these things and be in there tinkering with these super bugs and creating super viruses and tinkering around with things that nature or God didn't intend to be tinkered with. It didn't need that. Like you're taking your. Why would we spend money investigating bat coronaviruses? Why would we spend that money?
Right.
I'm just waiting for a logical explanation for that.
And see, you won't get one because you saw even at the beginning when they first confronted them, they were lying about and denying it. And
Right.
then once they got to the point where it was just right there in their face, no more lying, no more running, they can't hide anymore. Then it was like, well, we're just using bats and I thought we already got past that bat theory like month 2. We thought that was done. Now they're trying to bring that back again and say, oh no, it came from bats. And I'm like, oh, I had issues with Fauci. I'm not being honest. I couldn't just come up from the beginning like, hey, trust this guy. I can't trust him. I did see certain videos when press briefings where Trump would be speaking and he would have certain body language in the back where he'd be like, kind of like moving around when Trump would say something like he was like being a little funny with it. So I didn't like that. And I also didn't like the fact that anytime he was on the news, it was always on a leftist news network. It was on The View, it was on MSNBC, CNN. So I was like, okay, this guy's with Trump's press, in Trump's press briefing, then he's kind of rolling with the Trump administration at the moment. Shouldn't he be all over the place, not just on a certain type of news network? So that was kind of iffy about it. So I didn't want to come out and because I was trying to be a negative, Mr. Negative coming out and saying, oh, this is all conspiracy kind of thing. I said, no, let's see how it works. But like you said, as time went by, you kind of started to see Fauci's true colors and it's starting to show. And now you see what his real intentions are, that more and more information is coming out about what happened.
Well, one other thing I would just like to add is that he I don't like his sense of I know it all, right? Like there are scientists that are saying that what they were doing is gain of function. He's saying it's not, and now we to accept that it's not gain of function because you said so. While there's 300 other scientists that are like, no, this is how it's gain of function. Now, I'm no virologist, I'm no chemist, I'm no quote unquote accredited scientist, but I am a critical thinker. So I can go study basic virology. I can take 2-3 weeks out of my life to go study how viruses work, which I did. I can then find out what would the virus need to be able to get inside of a human cell. So I don't need to be a virologist to understand the basics, and neither do you. So once you get into the basics of how these things work, wait a minute. So I didn't need Dr. Fauci to explain it to me? No, just read some stuff.
I didn't Dr. Fauci to tell me one day no mask because I'm black, and then the next day wear 2 masks, and the next day blacks need to be first in line for the vaccine shot. I'm like, he flip-flopped around all over the place during this whole situation. And he's still trying to come out like, believe me first, believe what I say, believe everything I say.
I
And
don't
it's
like
like,
that.
man, you
That
already
part I
been
don't like.
proven to be a corrupt man, you
Yeah,
know, but
that
you want
part
to
I'm
act like
not.
you're a god or something.
Yeah, no, that part I'm totally not agreeing with at all. However, what I will say is that, like I said from the beginning, I didn't shoot him down, right? Because
Yeah.
he has done a couple of good things. When I did go, look up his career, and I said, okay, he's involved with this. He does know something, right? I have to give him that. He's not in the position he's in prime just because of relationships. He does. He knows some things. All right, his name is in some papers, and all right. Let's fast forward. Let's get to the end of this and then see what comes of him. And then we'll know what to make of this guy, right? Then we'll know, is he trustworthy? Does he have the American people's best interests at heart? And like Trump said, glad he didn't do what Fauci wanted him to do. Fauci wanted him to not ban certain countries from coming in. Had Trump listened to him, we don't know what the death toll would be. We have no
Mm,
idea what that death toll would be. So,
fact.
I mean, lucky for us, the former president didn't listen to him. But like I said, I'm no virologist. I'm no lucky. I'm not in that position. So, it's easy for us to say on the outside.
Right. We got to tell some of our Democrat buddies that because they swear they're expert on everything. Most of them, got these BS degrees they got in school, whatever, but they're experts on everything all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, and I can't stand that. It's called the argument from authority. Like, I went to school for this. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So you're saying you were dumb enough to give up 75 grand. I learned that in one summer on my couch. Yeah,
Don't you love that?
I
Don't you
just
love,
didn't know it.
that's how you get under skin is talk to them like that, and then what I like to do when I actually am schooling them, I like to tell them I'm schooling them. I'm like, oh, I'm schooling you right now, right? And
Yeah,
because
that's the
they
thing.
really because they came at you because they know they got this magical degree. Oh, I got this master's, and they know I tell people a lot of times, yeah, I dropped out of college. I'm a high school grad. That's it.
Listen,
So
bro,
they already got the mindset like, oh, I'm better than you. I'm smarter than you. So when we get a
yeah,
debate on something that I've done my research on, because I'm an independent-minded brother, done my research, I'll go at them with that research, and they're just taken back. And when I see they're taken back and they don't know what to say because the school book hasn't taught them what to say, I just start telling them I'm schooling you. I'm out of school. I do hashtag class of the session. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Because they really like, man, that just pisses them off. And then there's times where I've gotten leftists under leftist skin by schooling them and just getting under the skin where they said some borderline racist thing to me sometimes. Of course, online, they won't do it face to face, but they'll say something online to me and I'll call them out. I say, oh, okay, now who's the racist? Look who's a racist. And they're like, oh, what are you talking about? I'm not a racist. I'm not. And like a lot of times I say that because they called me a coon or Uncle Tom. And I said, you are a white man or a white woman who has told a black man he's not being black enough. What is that called? That's called racism. And there's been even a couple times I'll have to give credit where credit's due that they come back, months, weeks later and DM me and say, you remember that, I was with the guy went back and forth about the, I was going to say, I apologize. I was out of line. That I never act like that. I was out of character and I apologize. And when I get that, I never do the whole, you better apologize. I do not, man. All right. I respect you for being a man about it and looking at the bigger picture, seeing that you were wrong and coming back and apologizing for it. I'm not going to belittle you for that. And that to me is just part of growth, man. That's also part of red pilling sometimes. You never know who gets red pilled from that.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And I think that's the best way to do it. Keep a little humility with it, And sometimes you can't, though, in all honesty. Sometimes you can't.
Sometimes that line's cross and burned and long.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the times we want to be on the other side where it's not like that. And unfortunately, they're not playing that way. Meaning to say that they're not being considerate of anybody's feelings when they believe something. So I think we have to kind of take a little bit of the same tack, not all the time, right? But we need a little more of that.
You gotta know your enemy. Know your enemy.
Yeah. And see the other part of this is they confuse, like, a lot of the times, and it's kind of going backwards a little bit, but who's decided the rules to what black culture is? Like, who is this authority that says what black culture is?
Who's the black referee to black people? Who's the one that conduct the black judge? Like, oh, you talk like that, you ain't black. Oh, you can't dance like this, don't you ain't black. And it's like, who is this, man? Who is?
Right.
And it's, I don't see any other community people. It's not even about white people. I don't see any community, Hispanics, Asians. You don't see none of them doing the whole "you ain't Asian no more," "you ain't white no more." It's like they can be as ignorant or off key or different, apart, away from the family, as crazy as they can be, but they're not going to say you're not this race anymore.
Right.
We are the only American blacks, not West Indians or Africans. American blacks are the only ones that do the whole "you're not black anymore" thing. And
it's nuts.
That is nuts. That is to me a form of mental slavery in 2021, and that was what got me so angry growing up dealing with the black community. And I would hang out with other racist people only because of the fact that when I hang out with them, I can just be myself. And nobody like I had to feel like I had to act a certain way or talk a certain way. I can just be myself, and I was accepted. With my
Right.
community of people, unfortunately, in America, that was not the case. And as I got older, I learned how to deal with it better. But now, as a grown man and standing on my own too, as a Black conservative in New York, I know I'm going to not only be who I am, but I'm going to stand up for who I am, because I know there's a lot of young Black people who are listening and watching me who are dealing with what I dealt with growing up, just because they're not fit, they're not following the line and being of the sheeple flock, and they're being
Right.
independent, and they're getting criticized for it, and that's not right, because we need more independent-minded thinkers out there of all races.
Right. And I wanna just make sure people understand one thing that I said. When I'm saying about black and white and not calling itself these things, what I'm trying to get us to do is make sure that those of us with sense own these titles and own these words. If you're gonna say black, right? Like trap rap is not black culture. The thing is, you guys have to remember, if you read black white liberals and black rednecks, you'll learn where we adopt. When I say we, you'll learn where this type of behavior was adopted from
Scotland.
in lower and southern England. So the
Yes.
boisterous style of music, the disregard for education, the certain,
Alcoholism, the no family structure, the husband, the
all of
wife.
this stuff is not black culture. It doesn't belong to us. So when you adopt it and you don't understand it, right? Then that's where you end up where we are today, where people thinking things belong to us that don't belong to us, that doesn't belong to us. We was never with single parent households,
No,
not
we
even
had
in
the lowest. We
slavery.
had the lowest born out of wedlock rate in the family of any race of people in the 1930s in America. We did that. We
Game
were that
over.
with our Christian values.
Right, but so now you're gonna have to show me how this new thing became the face of black culture, which is easy to do. When we talk about entertainment, we talk about government, right? We talk about affecting people's mentality, then we see where it comes from. We see that and I'm not shooting anything. That don't take this as an anti-Semitic thing, but most of the show writers for a lot of the sitcoms were Jewish brothers and sisters that were
Mm-hmm.
writing black television. So
Mm-hmm.
how is that a thing? You had a couple of black writers, but you didn't. Most of the shows were produced and developed by somebody outside of this community. So the perceptions on the television shows were the stereotypes, and now the stereotypes have become the predominant view of the culture. If you go back and look at the shows like Good Times, you go back and look at shows like 227 or some of these other black, quote unquote, black shows, what you're gonna find out is that those shows, black exploitation films, these other things, were the stereotype. And now the stereotype, the media grabbed the stereotype and said, we're going to promote this. This is,
Mm-hmm.
and
The
now it's
regular
being
type.
right, and now it's being predominantly viewed as the culture. What about all of the scientists of the 17 to 1800s that were black? Let's do this. Let's do an experiment and take all the Irish people out of America. We're not where we are today. Let's put the Irish people back in and take out all the quote unquote black people. The country's not where we are today. All right, let's do it. Let's take out all the Germanic peoples from America and see where the country is today. We're not where we are today. Take all of the Asian people out of American history and see where we are and see if we're
Mm.
where we are today.
We definitely wouldn't have any railroads, that's for sure.
So you see what I'm saying? So the idea that America is inherently racist is stupid. Number one. Number two, we got to be able to own our culture and defend it against American culture, that is. Not black culture, not white culture, American culture. And in some circumstances, our theological culture, our religious culture. Like our Christian brothers and sisters need to get with us on the Muslim side of things. We need to get and sit down and reason with each other. And then say, okay, well, we got a mosque here, we got a synagogue here, and we got a Baptist church here, and we should all want to thrive in this community together. And this is how it initially was. Even this is why you have places in America called Salem. They say Salem, it's Salem. It's not Salem. It's how you pronounce it. So why would you have that? Why would you have places with Arabic names in them in America? Because Morocco was the first country to recognize America as a sovereign nation. Morocco is a Muslim country. It has been for 500 years. So like,
Wow.
what are we talking about here? Like this yeah, sure. We don't like radical anything in America. Like,
Yeah,
we don't like
yeah.
radical Christians either.
All right.
So
We don't
like,
like radicals on the right, on the left, radical Christians,
man, listen,
radical anything. You say
give
radical,
me
you're something after that. I don't want nothing to do with it. I'm sorry.
Give me your regular, run-of-the-mill, God-fearing, Jesus Christ loving Christian. Anything past that guy, I don't want to deal with it. I'm like,
Amen.
I'm good with that. Give me your. So even with me, and I'll just say this, and I'll leave it alone. Even with me, I kind of opt out of conversations on the Muslim side of things because a lot of my Muslim brothers don't realize they're not Muslims, they're Mohammedans. They're following Muhammad and they're not being Muslims. They're
Yeah, I remember
following a
we talked
guy.
about this before, man. You really broke it
It's
down.
a rabbit hole, and like I said, but the minute I just say, nah, I'm American, I don't even get into my religion. I'm Republican. I'm just American, man. I'm just
Yep.
American dude.
Well, see, I say other than that. You know what I mean? If
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
a
fact.
law-abiding American citizen, hey, why can't we get along? You know what I mean? Like Martin Luther King said back in the day.
But if we're gonna disagree, let's do so in the spirit of being solution based. All right, what are we disagreeing about? I don't think our tax dollars should go to fund Planned Parenthood, and you do. All right, let's talk about that, and then have a beer after. After we disagree that the money should go or shouldn't go, and find some happy medium, or agree to disagree, let's have beer after that, or let's have a drink and break bread after that, because it shouldn't affect our cordiality, our being friendly with each other, or at least being minimally respectful. You know what I'm saying? Like the minimal amount of respect. Look, I respect that. I don't agree with you. Now there's certain things we're never gonna agree with. You know what I'm saying? There's certain things like, and I don't know if I mentioned this on your show before, but if you look this up, there's states that it's legal to marry your first cousin. New York being one of them. I'm never
Oh,
gonna be cool with that. If you
no.
look at, all right, so listen, if you pull up the map of the states that it's legal to marry your first cousin, and you pull up the red and blue map of red states and blue states, you're going to see a correlation between liberal Democrat, with a progressive Democrat leftist states versus Republican states, Texas being the extreme. It's like a scale of red that says legal, totally illegal, illegal with some totally legal, whatever. Texas is the reddest you can get. It's not legal. They not entertaining it. You go to California, the whole state's blue. Then there's states that are striped. It's like blue, 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 red stripe, blue, 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 red stripe. And let me guess, these are the Republican counties.
Yeah, you know
And,
it.
or the more right-leaning counties. So it's about who and what are the ideals of the people we're electing. We got to get to know these elected officials and what they stand for, because how do you get to the point where that's a law?
Yeah,
How
facts.
do you get to the point where that's a law? Now, have you heard this new thing with the maps?
Well, what's going on with that?
Minor attracted people.
What?
This is a whole genre of people. They're
Oh, man.
fighting for laws to be because they're minor attracted people.
Wow.
What you and I would probably
Wow.
classify as a
See that?
pedophile.
That's why. That's when they're doing this whole LGBTQ, RNOPO, all
Yeah, they
agency
sliding all of
LGBT.
them in there.
I said when they were starting to do that, watch. Eventually, you're gonna get the pedophilia because all it's going to get to is when they do all this. I identify as a girl. I identify as a boy. All it takes for a grown adult male to do is say, "Well, I identify as an 8-year-old girl. Why can't I go to the girls' room and go to the bathroom with little girls?"
Right, and that's what they're
And
doing, Chris.
then they're going to have ground to stand on when they say that. You
They're
can't
doing it
tell them
now.
they're wrong or you're crazy or you're a pervert, you're a sicko. No, they are saying what the rules and laws that you guys allowed him to have. So
Right.
he is legally doing this now. You welcomed this to the front door. You guys did.
Push back, listeners, push back on this minor attracted people label. This is a thing they're coming up with. They're trying to slide that agenda in. And at the Urban Conservative, we're going to be pushing back against it on every single level that we can, mustering up all of the political capital that we have, talking to elected officials, talking to our congressmen and our elected officials to not let this become a thing where we're, all right with the LGBTQ. Okay, because y'all only talking about how you have sex. Any of those labels only refer to your sexual activity. Lesbian, that's just it. Lesbian has nothing, like, it's not a political thing. It's who you have sex with. Gay, who you have sex with. So we're only, like, these shouldn't be things out loud. But all right, I got it. Those, okay, I got it. But then when we start to get into minor attracted people, and nah, bro, you talking about babies. You talking about kids now. Now
Nah,
we can't allow this to be slid in. There shouldn't be any rainbow flags at our embassies. There shouldn't be any rainbow flags flown at our military. One
yep,
flag only.
yep.
Maybe
Yep.
your pal Mia, you know, prisoners of war, your pal prisoners
Yeah,
of war,
yeah,
this
yeah,
and
yeah.
that. You
Yeah,
know,
I'll let the pals get
you
on.
get a
You know,
little, you get that. I
yeah,
don't even,
get
I
a
don't
little about
even
the
want.
little attention out there. Yeah, that definitely well earned on that one.
Right, but
But
other than that, I don't want no other flag up there. I don't. If it came down to it, and I say, well, you don't want the blue flag flown at our no, that's a political statement. The only
mm,
flag that belongs at our embassy is the United States of America, our flag, the stars and stripes. Leave it there. I'm cool with that.
facts. And I look, man, I'd like to leave it on that note, man, because I know how we get down, man. We can talk
Yes,
all
sir.
night long,
Yes, sir.
brother.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to trust me, man. There's going to be plenty more conversations we're going to have. You're a constant guest on the show. You're always a welcome guest, and we're
Thank
going
you,
to have
sir.
more sit downs, me and you, man, brother. But I got to get some things to do, man. The CRA, is moving. I'm up with Blexit now, as you know, Blexit, New York, representing, and you're doing
Yes,
your thing
yes.
with the urban conservative, brother. And I'm so proud of what you're doing, man. You man, get on the radio, get all the just making your noise, your voice heard, man. So for all the listeners out here who for the first time maybe hearing you was this evening with me and you speaking, let them know how they can reach out to you, find you, and support what you're doing.
Yes, please do us a favor. Keep supporting the Christopher Wright Show. Keep supporting the CRA. You can find us at The Urban Conservative on all social media, on all podcast platforms. The website is TU Conservative, as in the urban, TUconservative.com. You can go there, get a $10 membership for the year, get access to some of the behind the scenes footage, exclusive content. We got a curated blog, a curated news feed. We got a dope community of conservatives, conservative business owners, and alternative media outlets. So come join us at the Urban Conservative everywhere you listen to podcasts, and check us out here for the future. And yeah, you coming up on an episode of the Urban Conservative anyway. So thanks again for the time, my brother. I appreciate you.
Anytime, brother. Thanks for coming. I take time out of your schedule to come on my show, man. We got to support each other out here, man. Black conservatives in New York, man. We got to build, man. We got to
We
stick
got to
together
do it.
out here, man. There's
Yes,
no
sir.
no room for bad energy, no room for division here, man. So,
Yes, sir. Appreciate
much
you.
love, man. Thank you for supporting, man. Thanks for coming on, and I look forward to future sit downs with you, brother, because we got a lot of building we got to do for the country.
Absolutely, my brother. Thank you.
All right, anytime, man. So everybody out there listening, like always, God bless all the listeners out there, and God bless these United States of America. Peace out.